Hey there, and welcome to this week's edition of 180 and 180. For this week, actually, what I wanted to do was look at a particular verse that kind of spurred this whole idea for me, looking at something in a very dramatically different light. And that's Genesis 50:20, which, to paraphrase, is what you meant for evil, God has turned for good. I love that phrase. I love the challenge of that. It's such a hard one for us to be able to do, to really be able to live out. But I feel like if we look at maybe the history of how it happened, then it'll help us see that maybe we can do this too. Because this is said by Joseph in Genesis to his brothers. And let me tell you, you may have had terrible siblings. I actually had pretty great siblings. I had some fantastic sisters growing up. But I hear from people all the time, oh, my brother was awful, he did this. Oh, my sister was terrible, she did this. You know what? Joseph's brothers beat him up, thought about killing him, and then instead did the better thing and sold him into slavery. Your brothers are not that bad. So if that happened to him, and yet he was able to see where that led, what happened because of that. He ended up in Egypt as a slave. He ended up in prison from there as well. But all that led to the opportunity for him to be brought into the Egyptian government, to be able to help during this incredible time of famine. All these challenges where he was able to help save so many people. So that at the end of all of that, he's able to say to his brothers, yeah, you meant this for evil, but God has turned it to good. That's such a powerful statement that he's able to say right there. It's an incredible one and a great challenge for us because there's a lot going on there. He doesn't just dismiss what they did. He doesn't say, you know, I'm going to forget that ever happened. He knows it. He acknowledges it. He recognizes it for what it was. It was evil. And I think we need to be reminded of that. We don't just need to take abuse. We don't need to take evil into our lives. That's not what God is saying there. But what God is saying is that it is going to happen. Sometimes people are going to do some really awful, terrible things, some challenging things to us. And for those of us who consider ourselves Christians, if we're able to, we can see how God can turn those things to good. Oftentimes that takes an enormous amount of time. It's not something that happens overnight. It's not something that happens very easily. But if we're able to really sit with that and see God's hand in that, then we too might be able to share those pretty powerful words from Joseph. Yeah, you meant this for evil. You did. I'm going to say that. I'm going to acknowledge what it was. But God has turned it for good. And I'm going to focus on that. I'm going to choose to see that instead. Whatever might be going on in your life, if there's a particular challenge, a hardship, particularly from someone doing that to you, encourage you to maybe have that type of mindset as you go through it. All right, that's it. Enjoy your weekend. We'll see you next week.